Nope, didn't work. Oh, well. Hey, we're live everywhere else except for LinkedIn. So you guys email LinkedIn and tell them that Darryll Stinson is mad at them, that they will not let me stream from StreamYard to LinkedIn. But for all of you tuning in right now, I want to say welcome to the Second Chance Live episode, the second one of this week. Yesterday, we had an amazing guest on, and today I have a friend of mine, also a financial coach of mine. His name is Caleb Guilliams. He told me how to pronounce his name before we started because I was butchering that last name before. He is a financial expert. He's also a handsome looking man. He's trying to catch me in the looks, but he needs to fill out the shoulders a little bit,
100%, man. I got to hit those weights.
Let me read you his official bio. And as I do this, I want you to be thinking about who you know that could benefit from his expertise and his message. Caleb is like a kid genius, man, and is one of the smartest financial minds that I know of. And so he's agreed to come on this show, share everything that he knows with you. He's an open book, and there's people who who could benefit from his expertise in this message. So I'm going to ask you to host a watch party if you're watching on Facebook, or if you're watching on another platform, just hit the share button. Share this message because he's freely giving, and we believe that the best way you can honor is to live out what he says, but also to share with others. So while I read his bio, feel convicted and hit the share button. Here we go. After taking over the entire investment department of a bank by the age of 19, and he's clearly like 20 now, Caleb saw firsthand how 98% of Americans were financially failing despite professional financial advising. After 3 years of traveling the country and being mentored by the most successful financial minds, Caleb discovered a better way to build wealth. Leaving his prestigious position at the bank, he founded his company, BetterWealth. Authored the best-selling book, which I've read, and it's amazing. It's called The And Asset. He hosts the BetterWealth podcast, is that what I was on? I was on your show? Sweet. Yep. And he speaks to thousands around the world. He's one of the youngest leaders in the industry, and he's quickly becoming the new face of finance. Now, true story, I met him at a conference that we went to, a mastermind about how to build your speaking business. And this guy's just walking around like looking like he's lost. And I promise you, I kid you not, I thought in my head that this was a kid that was just lost. He went to the wrong hotel or something like that, and then it crossed my mind like maybe he's here for the same thing I am. I'm like, no, he's way too young. And then the next day he comes to the first day of the mastermind, or the whatever you call it, the high ticket thing that we're at, and he has his assistant with him. Just like, this dude's a boss, man, and he's the most coolest, humble guy. He's a believer. And I'm like, man, I remember like there was two people that I met at that mastermind that I was like, we're gonna do stuff beyond just this day. And Caleb was one of those people. So Caleb, I'll stop talking, man, but I just want to say as a friend, man, you're phenomenal. I've read your book. Since I've been a guest on your podcast, I started to listen to it like in preparation to be on it, so I wasn't thrown off, because remember I thought I was interviewing you. And I can say, dude, you are brilliant, man, and God's really giving you a gift to understand, and you kick butt. You put in real hard strategic work ethic, and you develop innovative strategies that work. And I think we can learn a lot from you today. It's going to be hard for me not to be selfish and ask you my personal questions, because I really want this to benefit people who are, whether you're just starting out and you're just trying to figure out how do I like save to how do I create leverage in my financial life. Caleb's going to help us with that today. So I'm done. Caleb, let them know a little bit about you, and I'll go and guys, please make sure you share this.
Well, I first of all want to say, man, it is a pleasure being on here. I echo what you said about, like, everyone goes to conferences or masterminds and you leave, and a lot of times you don't talk to anyone after that. Mm-hmm. You are one of those people that I go, we are going to be brothers for the rest of our life. And so, man, I'm so grateful to be on here. I would just say this. It's like, yes, I'm young. It's when you read my bio, people are like, okay, so he took over the bank's investment department last week, because you don't need to look 19. And I'll just say this. I've been given a lot, and I've had some incredible mentors. I was the oldest of 6 kids, grew up in an amazing family, and was homeschooled, which was kind of unique. Was always into money. I mean, 15 years old, I was like saving, investing, doing option trading. Like I was a weird kid.
Wow.
Okay. Got a job at a bank at 17. So got in even before, usually 18 is like the age that people want you at. I knew somebody, so they got me in at a financial institution at a young age. And then I became one of the youngest people to have that opportunity to take over the investment department at 19
Wow.
years old. So when you're 19, you want to do this whole money thing. I'm going to college. I'm feeling like a pretty cool kid, 19 years old. I have my own office, phone. But one thing that was haunting me is so many people are getting crushed in taxes, crushed in debt. They have no clue what their money's doing. Money's supposed to be a tool. And so I was very excited. And then I had my own 10 minutes of horror when I realized some of the people that I respected the most, I thought they had their life together. I realized that their money was a disaster. And so I committed myself towards a mission of, I wanted to help people live to their highest potential. I think there's a lot there. We could talk all about that. But people are unable to do that if their health and their money and their time are not aligned. And my goodness, man, again, I'm just opening up a can of worms.
Yeah.
You could have a ton of money, and if you're not healthy, or if your time's not aligned, you're not wealthy.
Yeah.
And so I've started realizing, okay, if I could do one thing, if the reason I get so fired up, so passionate about what we get to do, if I could do one thing, if I could have one person be more intentional, my goodness, like that creates a ripple effect that can be incredible. So what ended up happening is I think people pitied me, and they taught me a ton about money.
Because you weren't a threat, right? Like when you're starting out, you're this little kid. It's like, oh, who's he? But now look at you, man. So they took you under their wings.
Yeah, they took me under their wings, but then I was also a sponge, and I'm very, very relentless when it comes to wanting to seek out truth.
Yeah.
The biggest blessing in disguise is I didn't have a direct mentor. If I had a direct mentor, I would be a very charismatic, average, typical financial planner. Okay.
Wow.
I did. So I had to seek out people that were actually knowing what they were doing.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between people that manage your money or babysit your money, like I like to say it, or people that are really in the trenches with you, helping you be strategic with that. So fast forward, I graduate college a year early. I'm sitting in my office one day, I'm looking at my mission statement. I'm realizing, what am I doing? Like, there are so many people, no one knows who I am. And there's so much ability to serve. I'm a huge fan of leverage, and I had no leverage. And so I actually left the bank at 21 years old, started my company, BetterWealth, on this vision. I couldn't tell you at the time, but it was like, I knew intentional living was key. And I knew if I could add some coaching and what I was learning, we could do some amazing things. And so what ended up happening was we started very humble beginnings, left the bank on good terms, moved into a basement under Papa John Pizza, not the most nice office, let's just put it. But we've grown that. We've used the internet, and now our team's over 16 people.
Wow.
We use the internet to coach, and we have multiple BetterWealth coaches. We have clients in almost all 50 states. Wow. And our big focus is education's important. Don't get me wrong. Education's important. Yeah. But implementation, coaching, and stewardship when it comes to your time and money. And there's some key principles that we teach, like you are your greatest asset.
Yeah.
Start with the end in mind. Yeah. Efficiency is way more important than rate of return. Be efficient and know what you're trying to do. The majority of people don't have the end in mind as it relates to their money.
Yeah.
So I want to be as valuable as possible. That I think outside the box. Yeah. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, like, I've got a billion questions. Question number one that I know is running through people's mind, and this is I know the answer to this, but I know that people are thinking this because this was like the first thing that I thought when I first met you and started to look you up more. Is like, okay, you took over a bank at 19 years old. Was that like grandpa's bank? Was that handed to you? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah. So when I was working for a community bank, we had 3 branches. So not a massive bank, but over 100 million in assets. And so a big bank in our town. And what ended up happening was I worked in our investment department when I turned 18. I got connected with a lot of people, and I always wanted to work in that department. And so I ended up working there, taking a pay cut, staying at the bank, working there as an assistant. The guy that was running our bank's investment department took another job. And so he gave his, notice. And I took it over as a temporary, like, just just make sure the place doesn't burn down until we find somebody else.
Wow.
And the cliche statement that my boss, second father, who I'm indebted to him, he said, Caleb, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Mm-hmm.
And so that platform gave me, like, I truly loved on people, and I was not the smartest person, far from it, but I found the answers.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually ended up not losing anybody. The transition was so clean that they actually kept me on until I left. And it's just very unique that you would let a 19-year-old take that responsibility. But I was just grateful to not burn the place down.
Right. Love it, man. And so, talk to me about your psychology and the way that you think, because the other thing that I found fascinating about you, and I experienced this a little bit, not to the degree that you have, and probably because you owned your identity more as a young leader. I struggle with that, being somebody who was put in a position of authority and influence as a young leader. And I remember 2 instances in my life. The first was kind of like being the spiritual guy growing up. Like, I remember being like 10, and I was the one who like opened up like Thanksgiving prayer. And I was like, why would nobody else do this? I'm 10 years old. But yet they looked to me as a leader, as a spiritual leader already at that age. And then fast forward, it happened other times in other aspects. But the other time is when I was pastoring in Saginaw. I was a satellite campus pastor. And I'll never forget being a marriage counseling session. And the couple was at least double my age, and me and being like, I need to be coached by you. Exactly. And so there's this for me, it was a struggle to be a young leader. And I'm curious, like, how did you handle like what was your thought process around being young and coaching people who are older than you, maybe might have had more wealth than you, and still owning who you are and not allowing that your age to be a limitation for you?
Yeah. Simon Sinek, Start With Why, was a game changer for me, because what I realized is so many people in our space, regardless of like who you come from, a lot of people don't have a deeper sense of why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
And while I was not the smartest person when I first started, I did learn early on to seek first to understand, be able to identify like if you remember back when we talked, what's important to you.
Yeah. I remember
and
that.
then what do we need to do with your time and money to get that result? And we've coined this ROR. Majority of people in the financial world will talk about rate of return. I think it's super shallow. I don't think it tells you much, but that's the carrot that everybody, it seems like, that is into investing is on this treadmill on rate of return. I feel like it's the greatest seduction of our life. And I just asked the question, why are we getting a great rate of return? It's for some kind of result. So ROR for me is return on result. Wow. Essentially, if I can understand your why, if I can understand what's important to you, then I just have to look at what's going on in your life and ask the question, can we accomplish that? And what do we need to do with your money? What do we need to do with your time? What do we need to do with your God-given abilities to get that?
Yeah.
And you'd be shocked how nobody's having that conversation. And so, yes, I'm super young, but I'm like listening and I'm asking people what they really want. And then I'm not taking the typical knowledge of this is what you do, because I hate that. I hate this is what we've always done. And ask the question, knowing what I know, what does this person need to do with what they've been given, what they have, their abilities to make that a reality? And then there's, obviously writing a book and learning specialized tax strategies and efficiency. Like there's so much more, but that didn't come in our textbooks. That came because I sought out a better way.
Wow.
And so thank you for asking that. And it's not been perfect, but I've been humbled by the fact that people will listen to me, even though I'm like, sometimes, double their age is sometimes a understatement. Like sometimes it's triple.
Yeah, I know.
It's just, it's humbling.
It is, man. And it's something that I admire about you. And I know that, and I don't know if you're, here's what I notice about people who are extremely gifted is sometimes it's hard for them to recognize their own genius, right? And what's normal to you is so abnormal to other people, right? And so I know people who have less limitations than just their age, right? But yet, like I know people who are way overqualified to be entrepreneurs and CEOs, but because in their mind they think they're underqualified, they never move forward or produce results. Where you had every reason to be insecure, every reason to be scared, every reason to be afraid, but yet you didn't. And I think that's genius, man. I really do. I think that's phenomenal. to be able to build what you build. And I want to talk about building a company. There's two questions I want to ask you around this, and you can choose which one you answer first. The first is like legit, like there's entrepreneurs right now who are trying to figure out the digital space. How do you grow? What's your thoughts on building a business in today's economy? The second question is if you were to look at a struggling organization, right? Like they're in the red, they're losing money every month. How would you assess them? And what are the things you're looking for to figure out how you can take them from a struggling organization to a thriving financial organization?
Yeah. They actually both have a common theme.
Mm-hmm.
The Go-Giver is an amazing little book.
Yeah.
That I think is rooted in so much wisdom.
Yeah.
And essentially is a lot of people are go-getters. You might be super active, but you're like, man, it just doesn't seem to be clicking. And a lot of people ask like, Caleb, what is your secret? Like how have you done this? And it's very much like I embody the Go-Giver without even reading the book. Like I recently read it, but I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is what I learned just through all the other books and people that I've had the opportunity to learn from.
Yeah.
And so one of the biggest mistakes that I think people make is number one, money follows value. Success, significance follows value creation. Majority of people in sales, majority of people in business, majority of people that invest ask the question, what kind of value is happening through those activities? So that's number one, is very much like take a step back and say, how can I create value? This principle number two is how can you amplify that? Because the person, Jeff Bezos, is providing more value than I am. That's why he's a billionaire and I'm not.
Yeah.
You might have opinions on what, but the reality is Amazon has had an ability to scale that. So one of the other problems is a lot of people don't know what that is. They might be diversified. They might be watering their value down by trying to serve so many people. Then you got to say, okay, if this was what we do, how do we get that out to more people? Because money will come in exchange of being able to help more people.
Yeah.
And then there's so much inefficiency, and so lack of leverage.
Yeah.
So for example, I might have the ability through this book, through the ability to help people really see what's going on with their money and go all in. I need to figure out a way to leverage that activity to get out to more people.
Okay.
And where inefficiencies are coming in our own business is trying to do so much, not being efficient with getting our word out. And then we're spending money and we're on a freaking treadmill. And you look at the end of the year and you go like, man, we feel like the best kept secret. I feel like a lot of people are that way because they don't see the end in mind. And so I know I dropped a lot of different things, but I think it comes down to value creation and then most efficiently getting that value out to the right type of people. Yeah. And if you can figure that out, regardless of where you are, you're going to be wealthy.
Yeah. So I know that there's the people that, and I was talking to David Meltzer about this, and because that's the recipe, right?
Yep.
And me and him were having this conversation about how, there are people who are giving, like, so let's take a book. Let's say you got an author, and let's say in their minds, the best way for me to be of service to others is to give this book away to as many people as possible. And they gave it away for free. They'll go broke doing that if they never have a means of transacting. So what do you say to the people who are like, man, I'm the biggest servant of them all. I'm doing everything that I can, but yet they're not seeing that financial return. What would your advice to them be?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. I think that's a lot of times when you think of a giver, you think of someone who's always being taken advantage of. I think it's just being really strategic and having a generous heart, but you got to be strategic with that.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those things where whether it's a coach, whether it's someone that you can trust that's not emotional about your situation. Like one of our pitches to the whole money thing is you need somebody that's not emotional about your situation that can look at a third-party model that can keep everybody accountable. But the most important thing is that you have a coach that's not emotional about your situation and that can just be a mirror on what's going on and keep you accountable to what you say you're going to do. How many people have that in life? Not very many. So I think it's a combination of, yes, if we just gave out all of our services for free, we would go broke.
Yeah.
I'm never going to hide something and make it a secret though.
Yeah.
I know the true value for us is actually helping someone implement financial strategies.
Yeah.
You can know all the things in my book. You can know all the things about tax strategies and
Right.
company structures and investing. You're not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You need
that
somebody to help
accountability.
you
Mhm.
with that.
Yeah.
My hope is that I would give value
Yeah.
and in return, and you don't want to do things just for return, but you need to be open to receiving. And
Yeah.
so great. That's a great question. And I hate to give this answer, but I don't know what situation people are in. And I would very much go through like, how can you give strategically and how can you have a generous outlook on life? Because at the end of the day, being alive is the greatest gift, period.
Yeah.
And I saw this the other day where, you know, 1 billion seconds is 31 years. 1 billion seconds is 31 years. 1 million seconds is 11 days. Let that sink in.
Hmm.
If you are under the age of 50, you're according to the actuarial tables, you're a billionaire.
Hmm.
I want that to sink in because there are people that are worth a lot more money that would trade places with me. And the point that I'm making is a lot of times we need to have more of an abundant way to look at life. And that's one of the things that I don't even know that we're going into, but I just like, I want to, and that's what you gave to my audience is like, man, I just want you to know how much your life matters and like how valuable it is.
Yeah.
And when we start seeing through the lens of that, the money is just a tool rather than the goal itself.
Love it, man. Love it. That's so good. There's so many things you said, and I can attack some of them, but I want to get back to you as a person because again, I think your mindset is brilliant, man. And if you don't have a book on mindset or a course on that, you probably need to create it because I think it's one of the things you do well that maybe you don't seek. When I talk to a lot of people, and I'm like, man, the way that you think, your mindset about problems, about business, about not just money, but just life and obstacles is fascinating to me. Um, so here's my thing. What would you say is one of your biggest failures as an entrepreneur, and how are you able to move beyond that?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I think of our biggest failures, I think of my inexperience when I first got started and how I would help people with their money. So I
Mhm.
cringe at the first 2 years of business because I just didn't know what I didn't know. Like I didn't know what I know now, and the service that I gave people was a fraction of what they would get now.
Mm,
And these are the people that took a chance on me.
mm,
So they're being served. But you know, like I wouldn't necessarily call that a failure. I would just call that a reflection and like a
yeah, yeah,
cringeworthy
yeah,
reflection.
yeah, yeah.
And I would also say what we're trying to work through now is majority of people in the financial service business can't get out of their own way.
Mhm,
At 24 years old, I fired myself from being the head wealth coach,
mhm,
and we put somebody that runs that. That frees me up to do what I uniquely love and growing BetterWealth because we want to serve 1 million people the next 5 years.
mhm.
No way I'm going to see 1 million people.
Right.
So we've started looking at that because I'll say this. I'm deflecting your question a little bit, but the biggest failure that I've seen that most people in our business is they can't get out of their own way.
Mhm.
And that limits their impact. I could tell you I want to impact people, but then if you look at where I'm spending my time, it's like, okay, you want to impact like 10 people or 100 people.
Yeah, yeah, because all roads lead to you type of thing.
Right. And so that's been a process, and it's been a painful process because if you can imagine, I love this. And the
Yeah,
fact of me not working with people is like dying inside because part of my identity is built in that. And I'm taking a step back and saying, is my identity in meeting,
yeah.
or is my identity bigger than just myself and what I do on a day-to-day basis?
You see, but for me, I and when I work with leaders, I used to think early in my development, like people just are like are insecure and they don't want to share the load, and it's just like an ego trip. They want all roads to lead to them, or they have trust issues, and I used to preach the John Maxwell principle, whoever came up with it, that if somebody can do something 70% as good as you, delegate it, or 60% whatever.
Yep.
And what I really found out is delegation was actually more of the problem. And I hate the word delegation because it has so many meanings to so many people.
Yep.
But here's the reality. One of the reasons why why people struggle is because they know that especially in your industry, right? When you're responsible for a person's financial portfolio to a degree, and you delegate that responsibility to someone else so you can get out of your own way, they have to deliver.
Yeah.
Well, how have you trained your staff to deliver results?
Yeah.
And how did you empower others to get so that you could get out of your own way?
Yeah, that's another great question. I've been asked to speak. It's crazy, man. I've been asked to speak and teach people in the financial service business that are like twice my age.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was highlighted is to get out of your own way, there needs to be humility and trust.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say this, it's like, no, I'm super humble. That's not what I'm saying is I have an incredible trust in my team. And one of my best friends who helped co-found the business died of cancer 2 years ago.
Oh my God, I did not know that.
Incredibly healthy guy when I first met him. And I thought he was going to be in my life pretty much my entire life. He was 20 years older than me. And I realized that life is incredibly short.
Mm-hmm.
And if you understand that you're not going to be around long time, like I'm talking like in 200 years, I'm not even going to be a thought. No one's going to be like, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
That's super humbling, and it's very biblical because no matter what I accomplish today, no matter what happens today, no matter what kind of pleasures happen today, they're all temporary.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I just think at a 24 years old, I really adopted this about 2 years ago. I've just really had the end in mind, and I'm not married yet. I don't have a family yet, but I have this end in mind piece of like, okay, my life is going to end, and I want to make sure that like, and that's just humbling.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've just had an incredible team that it's been a journey, and we've lost accounts, and we haven't maybe been as profitable per person, but it's already allowed me to work in our unique ability. And so that humility and trust needs to be present. And a lot of times what happens is if you don't have one of those, there's going to be problems. And I will say, I mean, with a growing team, with being young, I would say our biggest failure is just not growing and not being as profitable as we should.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, but we're continuing to learn. I don't necessarily see that as a failure. I'd see that as an area to improve.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also an incredible optimist, so
Yeah.
it's hard for me to look at negatives. You know that about me.
Yeah. So zone in to the first time you got out of your own way. What was the project? Who was the client?
Well,
and what did you do?
So the reason I wrote the book,
Mm-hmm.
you're already experiencing this, is people are reading your book right now, and you have never even talked to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
They spent hours of getting your unique genius.
Yeah.
You didn't spend a minute with them.
Yeah.
So my first picture of this when I first self-published this book, and the first person came to me and said, "Caleb, I read your book. I want to work with you."
Yeah.
I was like,
say
that again?
Yeah.
And so that compounded, and we have a podcast, I speak, and obviously we have people coming in every day. And so that it was like coming in and no, you don't have to share with me what you do. I just want you to help. That was eye-opening.
Right.
And starting in January, we had our first client go through the whole process. I've never met them, never brought them in, and they're an amazing client. I've talked to them since. But that was the first time it happened,
Wow.
and I realized this is so powerful because it's scalable.
Yeah.
And that right there, it was like,
there we go.
This is what we need to. So that's obviously been most people that come in. I usually get the opportunity to say thank you.
Yeah.
Our annual event was postponed, unfortunately. So usually we create areas where I can meet more people, but it's crazy how many people we're bringing on, and I don't have a direct. And they get better service, by the way, because I'm not I have strengths and I have many weaknesses, and follow up and follow through is not a great strength of mine. And so what I've realized in delegating is I've been able to do things that I love and have been more effective in, and people that are really good at the coaching aspect are able to do that. Yeah.
I'm a recovering micromanager. Sometimes I have to tell my team, like, I'm sorry, because I will have really bad anxiety if I do not know that the ball's moving forward. And I think some of it comes from failed hires where you hire somebody, you're paying them, and you think that they're doing what they're supposed to do, and you look and you're like, holy crap, like you weren't doing anything. Like, what were you doing? And so, man, what's your onboarding process looks like? And then I have a closing question for you that I think will be inspiring to our listeners.
Well, and I won't call you out. I'll call myself out.
Yeah.
We've had people that have not worked out, and it's been our fault. And it's because we didn't have a clear expectation. We didn't have, like, I thought I was clear. It's like, I was like, I thought we were on the same page. And then the follow-up meeting, I'm like, we are not on the same page. It's incredibly frustrating.
Yeah.
And so our process is we kind of take a little bit of Traction and take that. Are you familiar with Traction?
Oh, the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So taking I'm obviously the visionary. I have an incredible integrator. I also have an incredible assistant.
Yeah.
So we kind of take a combination of that and have, an accountability chart. And then when people come in, it's very important that their core values are aligned, but it's also very important that this company scorecard to date, I would give us a C- on our scorecard, meaning we have a scorecard. It's not very good. And we don't keep people accountable to it.
I got you.
That's an area that we need to improve.
Yeah.
And then we also have a combination of some other things that we bring in. One of the best things that we did is, especially with COVID, is we now do a daily huddle, which is 17 minutes. It's actually 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it turns into 17. Yeah. And it's a really quick touch base. And it's one of the best things that our company ever did, because being virtual, we are able to get on the same page. And we're able to tell people where we're stuck in and where we're need help.
I love it. I know I said that was the last question, but let me zone in here, because I know that there's going to be these beginning people who are like, yeah, so you got all these employees, you got money, you got resources to do these things, but you also have built, right? And so when you were building, how did you know which pieces to add first? Because you couldn't just hire out the best integrator, you couldn't just hire out the best coach. You had to make strategic decisions.
BetterWealth was started with no debt and $25,000 in the bank, which is more or less than some people have. It started because I could articulate the why of BetterWealth, and I got two people, one passed. I had two people that bought in, and I didn't pay them anything, and they bought into what we were doing. And our whole focus was revenue, because we needed to make money. And then it was revenue and not over consuming. So it was revenue, saving to reinvest in people. And so how I view money and investments, I'm very clear in what I want. The stock market, real estate, gold is not going to give me closer to that result that I want. I'm not judging anybody. For me, it's growing a business. And so my investments have been people. So one of the first, I remember making our first hire, and I'm sure you can relate to this, and you go, oh my goodness, this is terrifying. And a year later, our company doubled, and would not have doubled if it wasn't for that person. So that person in the investment world gave me a lot more than 100% rate of return. So it was, and because our company has no debt, we've definitely grown organically. And it's been one of those things where I'm a saver for a purpose, and that purpose is to grow through people. And it's just been a start. But when we started, our office building was $250. I lived at home. I'm helping people with their money, and I'm living at home. I want that to sink in.
I know, right?
And we didn't spend any money. Why? Because we didn't have money to spend. And so we bootstrapped. I feel like I don't talk about that enough. We bootstrapped, and that's obviously grown to it kind of makes me sick when I think about how much money we spend a month. We spend more money a month than I would ever have made in a year.
I know. It's crazy. And at Second Chance Athletes, we experiencing similar growth. I was writing checks to pay bills and staff last month, and I was like, holy crap. And then we're just getting started. We're not where you guys are at, but it was like, oh God, this is pressure. All right, here's my last question, Caleb. Dude, what's in your future? What's next for you guys as a company, but for you as a brand, as a person?
So what's next for our company is, remember when I talked about value and then being able to serve people at a greater scale, is people are being super underserved when it comes to their money. Super underserved. There's no accountability. There's no end in mind. There's no independent modeling. There's no coaching. People are getting a product with me and then going to their neighbor and getting a product and then getting their insurance with somebody else. And I go, how are the wealthy doing? How are the successful businesses doing? They all are on the same page. Why in the world do we think that individuals are different? Think about it all as our individual, economies, personal economies. And so I go, what would a service be that would be revolutionary, that would be incredible, that people would be willing to pay for? There's this thing called the family office, and a family office is what the wealthy use, and everybody's on the same page. But you need to be worth $100 million to be a part of that. What if we could create what that does well and create it for the entrepreneur, create it for the person that wants to be a good steward, create it for the person that needs to pay off their debt and doesn't need an investment or a Roth IRA. They need to pay off their high interest debt. What if we could create a model like that? Because that's something I can very much believe in. And I've seen firsthand the tears, the excitement, the certainty that's given people. So the challenge that we're finding is, how do we do that? Because that means we're bringing everything in-house. Our coaches don't get paid commission. They get paid salaries. So how do we do that? Because if we crack the nut, we're talking like one of the biggest companies. I want BetterWealth to be one of the biggest players in the game as it relates to money. Yeah. So that's that. And then I almost think of myself as like, I'm just along for the ride, and I am doing business to build God's kingdom. I'm doing business to share the gospel. I'm doing business to encourage people to live out their highest potential. And so we're actually starting our first ministry, starting in 2021. It's all about apologetics, and it's all about really understanding why we believe is like why it's real. I also want to wreck CEO and big leaders' lives by taking them overseas and like showing them, like opening their eyes. And so we're working on those two projects as well. And it's going to be one of those things where it's going to get more money when BetterWealth is more profitable. And so that's why business and ministry goes hand in hand for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it, man. That's really cool. Keep me posted. Okay, guys, let me say, if you are interested in working with Caleb and his team, go to betterwealth.com. They're phenomenal. I told him when I was on his podcast that I'll give him a better testimonial like next year when I really scale. But I'll share something with you guys that I have not shared publicly with anybody, and so keep this a secret. What was that, 2 years ago when we talked?
It was over 2 years ago.
Maybe three. And we got on a strategy call session, and we talked about our finances, and I filled out this onboarding form, and long story short, we came up this the point was, look, I needed to get out of debt. Right. And I had, I don't know, $30,000 of consumer debt, at that time. And we came up with this strategy that would get me out of debt a lot sooner. And it was really creative. It wasn't Debt Snowball, which I knew, and I'm not knocking Debt Snowball. That's a great strategy. But it was specific to the assets that I have as an individual, the skill sets that I possess, and then also the network that I have and his creative mind. That's the best way I can say it without just like telling you too much of my business. and I can tell you, this year I was able to get, $20,000 out of the hands of credit cards and loans and into the hands of something that charges less than 4% interest. So you think about going from 32% interest to 4% interest is like a miracle. So we're talking years of our family's life, and to be able to take what we're doing now, we'll be able to do more faster sooner. So I would just say that the stuff works. It's not just spend less, make more. It's innovative and it's unique and custom to you. And I think that's one of the things that sets them apart. And you can hear the way that he thinks, and his team thinks the same way. So head over to betterwealth.com and connect with Caleb. I'd love for you guys to just, help him reach 1 million people and become one of the people that he empowers to live at their highest potential. Caleb, thank you so much, man. This was phenomenal. Dude, I love you to death. And I can't wait to see what else you do, man. And I'm a fan, and
Thanks,
and so let's stay in touch.
I just also want to just echo this, man. The work that you're doing, your message, like it's never been more relevant. 2020 has been a year where many people have struggled, and to have someone like you that is being so open and vulnerable to even share where you've been, man, we need more people like you. So I'm a better person because you're in my life.
Oh, thank you. Now, all of my team who's watching this, just take that part, clip it. We got them on camera. All right, guys, thank you so much. If you're watching this replay, drop questions and all that stuff. Our team will collect them, engage them. We'll repost the replay of this. That'll be up. Make sure you head over to secondchanceathletes.com, get all the live feeds that we do with all the experts. Caleb, you crushed it today, man. Thank you for your time. And guys, remember that your best days are always ahead of you and they're never behind you. We believe in you. You have purpose, and no matter what you're going through, your best days are ahead. We believe in you. So till next time, we'll see you then.